Board of Commissioners, Levee District will now come to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mayor, will you call the roll?
Ronald Colley,
Here.
Mitch Danos,
Here.
Roland Curall,
Here.
Roland Guidry,
Here.
Bob Falk,
Here.
McNeely Rowe,
Here.
Keith Guidry,
Here.
and Monty Vegas. Monty Vegas.
Okay, we have a forum, we have to approve the minutes. Gentlemen, you've had a copy of the minutes presented to you. Any corrections, deletions, or exemptions from that meeting as presented? Move on that, second by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. Let's go down to the executive committee. Keith, give us a report on the.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the executive committee had a meeting in the last week to discuss some issues that were going on at D-South, the contractor, and we extended this time a little bit to catch up on some stuff, and we're gonna review it again at the end of the month, and hopefully give you all another report at our next meeting.
Any questions on Keith on this matter, or any member of the committee for that matter? Okay, thank you, Keith. Okay, my report. We need to rescind Resolution 2020-07, which is the adoption of the 2020 millage rates, because there's been another revision since then. So, Mr. Attorney, just a house hand vote for that?
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we need a motion to rescind this resolution. Moved by Roland, second by Roland. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we have the new adopted revised adjusted millage rates, which is resolution number 2020-09, and it reads as such. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the South Lafourche Levee District of the Parish of Lafourche, Louisiana, held in a public meeting on October the 12th, 2020, which meeting was conducted in accordance with the Open Meetings Law, and that the following millages were hereby levied on the 2020 tax roll on all property subject to taxation by the South Lafourche Levee District. Ad valorem 1047,007, which is 4.86 mills. Construction and maintenance 1047,086, which is 5 mills. Be it further resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the South Lafourche Levee District, the Parish of Lafourche, Louisiana, the proper administrative officials of the Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, and they are hereby empowered, authorized, and directed to spread such taxes as here above set forth upon the assessment roll of said parish for the year 2020, and to make the collection of taxes imposed for and on behalf of the taxing authority according to law. And the taxes herein levied shall become a permanent lien and privilege on all property subject to taxation as herein is set forth, and collection therefore shall be enforceable in the manner provided by law. The resolution is read in full, and the roll is to be called on the adoption thereof. The resolution is to be adopted by the following votes. Gentlemen, your wishes. Moved by Roland, second by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No, we don't need a roll call on this, do we?
I think we do. Roll call, yes.
Okay, let's go back, gentlemen. Roll call.
Ronald Colley,
Yes.
Mitch Danos, Roland Curall.
Yes.
I forgot Mitch, you're not allowed to vote. Roland Guidry.
Yes.
Roland Guidry.
Here.
Yes.
Bob Falk,
Yes.
McNeely Rowe,
Yes.
Keith Guidry,
Yes.
and Monty, one's not here. Okay, we have a
Okay,
one.
we have 7 yeas, 2 absences. Okay,
6 yeas.
Oh, we have something which is always a pleasure to do, believe me. That's one of the few pleasures you get to do in life, to be able to present to something to a very brave young man. We have a resolution, 2020-08, for Dominic Levee, and I'll read it for you. Dominic, would you stand, please? Whereas Dominic Lareal has been employed with the South Lafourche District for the past 2 years, and whereas Dominic Lareal, on August the 21st, 2020, viewed a motor vehicle in the middle of Lafourche and immediately went to investigate. And whereas Dominic Lareal, without thought or concern for his own safety, did plunge into the waters to rescue occupants of the vehicle. Whereas Dominic Lareal risked his own life to rescue another when the vehicle suddenly plummeted underwater. And whereas Dominic Lareal fought and pulled to safety the occupant that was trapped inside when the vehicle sank to the bottom of the Lafourche. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the South Lafourche Levee District, with the greatest of honor, does commend Dominic P. Lareal for his selfless act of heroics in the rescue of the occupants of a vehicle that was submerged in Lafourche on August the 21st, 2020. Unanimously adopted by this on this 12th day of October, 2020.
Thank you.
Dominic, I haven't heard, you never told me the story. So you swam to the middle of the bayou,
Yes, yeah.
and then the car was still in the water?
Yeah, the car was like barely on top of the water still. So when I got to the car, because the car when they went into the water, they were going like, they said like 50 miles an hour out of the street. And they were all on the other side of the bayou. When I got there, and I was on the other end, so I jumped in. And when I got to the car, they were both just sitting in the car. So another guy jumped in with me on that end. When we got there, we grabbed the guy. Another guy jumped in from the other side. We got the guy out, and then the passenger, they only had one window down, which was the driver's side. When we got the guy out, the passenger, I looked at her and said, "Look, you have to get out. Like the car is about to sink." Because you could tell like the car was just slowly.
So you in the car looking out?
Yeah, I'm in the car. I'm
You in the car with him?
No, I'm not in the car. I'm just out of the car. I'm telling her.
You're on her side of the ground?
I'm on the other side of the car. Because I'm on the driver's side, but she's in the passenger seat. So I was like, "Look, you have to get out of the car now. What's going on?" Well, she looked me in my face and she said, "I can't swim." And when she said that, the car went underneath the water. And I started panicking. I was freaking out. So I still felt the top of the car. So I was sticking my arm inside the window. And I kept sticking my arm and I felt her arm. And when I pulled, she just came out of the water. And when she came out, she just wrapped her arms around me and I just swam to the bank. And when we got to the bank, everybody was there waiting to pull us out, and it was crazy.
You're a brave young man, Giant.
Thank you.
You're in shape too.
All the time. When we were swimming, I had to swim probably about another maybe 20, 30 feet with
That's
her.
what I'm saying.
And she couldn't swim, so she wasn't helping me swim. She was wrapped around the front, so I was swimming on the side. And I was tough.
They're gonna try to put you down.
Oh yeah, just dead weight on me swimming, and I was already tired. I'd been in the water for probably 10, 15 minutes at this point. So.
Well, that's a different way, we try to keep the water from getting on people, but you can get people that were in the water. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same type of work.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you.
Yes.
Strictly as a notification, as everyone I'm sure is aware of the passing of our late member, Brian C.J. Morris Jr. We'll have a proper presentation this time, so we get things lined up, and by the time we will present with a commendation for his service. My understanding is that his son has been submitted for replacement for him, so we're still waiting on the governor right now to approve the local senator did approve it, so we're waiting on the governor to send it to us. And then free trade zone for Port Bouchon, the rises that are there on the tax exemption.
Yeah.
Explain this.
Well, actually, I got Archie over here to help explain what the situation is and why we need to kind of get help our businesses out, being that the business climate is so bad, just to hang on to people, to give them a break for long. So, Mark, you go ahead.
Thank you, Wendell. Thank you, Mr. President. About a week ago, I guess, we assembled all of the taxing districts, mostly in South Lafourche. There were a few parish-wide districts in the council chambers and Matthews to go through this so we could present it to each one of the boards. So I guess about a month ago now, we were brought into a meeting with Schwest and some Bollinger folks about a set of risers in Port Fourchon. So all these risers go offshore, connect to the ocean floor, bring oil and gas up. I think we all know how that works. But a year ago, there was a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would have exempted a lot of things that go offshore from being taxed ad valorem logs. That constitutional amendment failed. So what you've seen happen across the coast, it's happened in Homa, it's happened in the Port of Iberia, it's happened out in Cameron, is people have started to create these free trade zones or foreign trade zones to exempt certain property from being taxed. So we have, I don't know, 13 of them spread across the parish already. This one specific one is already at Seaport 2. What they are asking is that we expand that boundary to include the boundaries of the expert riser facility to basically exempt the risers from ad valorem taxes. About $750 million of these risers have already left. Transocean has taken them to Homa. Theirs was created, I guess, early part of last year, and they basically advertised, which on the record is highly unethical and highly illegal to use that trick as a way to get businesses to come to you. But they've started to move product. So there are two competing schools of thought, and not all the taxing districts are on the same page about this, so that's why we're kind of hitting them one by one and working with the Schwest group to see if we can help them out in some way, shape, or form. There's two schools of thought. One is that we're racing to zero, right? So what's next? We could give away the farm on this and none of the taxing districts end up with any money at the end of the day. Because you have parishes now competing against one another, it opens up a whole set of issues about who the next company is and how much money eventually do we walk off. The other school of thought is that, just as you saw Transocean did, if that $750 million worth of riser pipe was able to go, then the next company is going to do it too. And they're going to look at it as, parish-wide, it's about a $2 million impact to all the taxing districts. The cost to move all that riser pipe to Terrebonne is about $2 million. So for 1 year's worth of ad valorem taxes, it walks away and we never see it again anyway. So what we have done, and Daniel's here in this too, we're going to present it to the council at our October 27th meeting. Luckily for us, we don't have just one lump sum. Like you guys, I think the impact to you guys would be about $150,000 that you would exempt from taxation that you wouldn't get year to year. For the parish, it's about $350,000. It's broken up into 7 different taxing parks: recreation, buildings and maintenance, health unit, that sort of thing. So we can piecemeal it. There are certain funds that I think we'll be able to walk away from and not need the money. There may be a couple, i.e. drainage, that I personally think we need, that we need to keep rolling. So it's going to be a balancing act. Same thing with the school board, same thing with the sheriff and the court commission, everybody else who's involved in this, the fire district, the ambulance district, the juvenile justice commission gets a piece of this as well. My opinion is that we need to do something. As Wendell and I had the discussion, times are tough, and if we don't do something, all of it's going to walk away. So is it better to do something? Or is it better to do nothing and we get 15 mils of zero, right? So I think what's going to happen, and this is me personally thinking, I think you're going to have a lot of the taxing districts like you guys who can afford to give it away. You're going to have some like the parish and the school board that are going to pick which funds we can give it away from, and we're going to be able to help them out tremendously. We won't be able to write off the whole $2 million, but let's say we get to $1.5 million. I think we can. The company's willing to work with us, and then they'll make those payments to those taxing districts. In a payment in lieu of taxes. It'll come off the tax roll, but you'll still get those taxing districts who don't sign on or only sign up partially off of, will still get their payments in lieu of the taxes. So I think it's a good thing. Again, speaking personally, this is the same speech I'm going to give to the council in 2 weeks. Is personally, I think we need to do it, because if not, it's going to walk away. I just think we need to be very careful, and this is something that we're going to have to look at on a case-by-case basis. Because after expert riser, what's the next company? Now, there are very specific things that can go into free trade zones or foreign trade zones, and the way we're going to write this agreement is that this is only exempting risers. So if you come in with a generator, if you come in with another type of drill pipe, if you come in with widget X, that's not going to be exempted. You're still going to pay taxes on that, and there's not that many of that hanging around there. That only gets brought in when it needs to go offshore. This riser pipe sits there all day long. And if that riser pipe goes away, guess what goes away with it? The repair contracts, the maintenance guys, the inspectors. So it's very easily now for company X to move their whole operation a whole month. And then whatever property tax we're collecting on that specific parcel, that goes back to the port commission, so that's the way the tenant agreements work, and then you can't tax it anyway. So not only have you lost the jobs, you've lost the tax money on the facility plus the riser pipe. So it's a trickle-down effect. The other part of the agreement is that we're gonna sunset it in 5 years. So it'll only be a 5-year deal, and then we'll rehash this in 5 years if we have to. One of the things we talked about at the meeting with all the taxing districts was our assessor Wendy Thibodeau has I think she's talked to a lot of the taxing districts about it. It's a model for ITEP, so the Industrial Tax Incentive Program. We asked her if she can plug this into the ITEP. She could. The only problem is that those ITEP models really work with jobs created. So if there's no jobs created on a certain entity, it's going to give you a negative report. So we asked her if there was a way to plug in job losses. So let's say you buy into the theory that, you know, if the riser pipe goes away, then the inspection jobs, the repair jobs all go with it, plus the administrative work from the riser company, everything else. It doesn't take that into effect. So I don't think the ITEP model is going to give us some good data. But again, I go back to, I think if Transocean was able to do it and they were willing to do it, then somebody's going to be next. So if we write the deal very specifically, if we sunset it after 5 years, I think it's something that we can all live with. And it's something that not only helps out the company, but is also going to retain a lot of jobs for us here in the parish, which is what it's all about.
Archie, when Transocean moved, we weren't aware of this going on?
Not really. We found out about it on the back end. And it was all because they went to the free trade zone or the foreign trade zone and,
You know, it's not a slam on Terrebonne Parish, but they're like everybody else. They're trying to get as much tax billing collected as they can. But they took Danos away from us, they took Rouse's away from us. We could have possibly lost this one too. It's time we start waking up and realizing what's wrong. I'm interested in moving out of the parish.
yeah, and I will say we have been, we hired a young woman named Christy Lumpkin about, I don't know, Christy's been with us for about 3 months now. We hired her in the height of COVID. We stole her away from Ruston. She had done economic development in North Louisiana for a lot of years. She worked around Lafayette, doing some things up in Oklahoma. She's been doing this, you know, probably not longer than I've been alive. So she came in at the right time. And we've been very aggressive when it comes to things like economic development, business retention. We are going through on the final stages of working through a business expansion program with a company, Buy Blue. They're going to build a $30 million expansion in Buy Blue. And we're very close. They've agreed to stay here. We're just working out the taxing agreements with the school board and the sheriff and everybody who's involved on that end. But this is going to be one of the largest deals we've ever seen. It's because we caught it early. It was between us and St. Charles, and I went to them and I said, look guys, I worked at this facility when I was in college. That's how I made my beer money. I hate to say it, but two, 7 months into administration, I wasn't going to let a facility that large walk away from this parish without fighting. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're putting up a fight to keep the businesses. And do we have to give a little bit? No doubt. But I think if we're smart about it, if we write the agreements the right way, if we sunset them and we revisit these things, look, in 5 years, we could be talking about a much different oil and gas industry offshore. I'm hoping we are. For all of us, not only from a taxing perspective, but from a jobs perspective. So those 5-year increments work very well. When you look at the cycle in the early 2000s, 2014, it started to bounce back up, and in 15 it started to slide off, and now we're in 20. So the cyclical part of it works in about 5-year increments. So I would ask you guys to support it. And then once we get the agreements drawn up, initially what we're trying to do is get an overall consensus about whether or not the boards can do it. Schwess is going to have to file an application to the FTZ board, which takes about 30 days. As part of that packet, all the taxing entities that want to pitch in or going to want to contribute to this is going to have to sign off on it. So we'll get with Wendell, get them the right language if you guys are agreeable to it. And then we'll come back to you guys probably sometime in December with the actual agreement, the cooperative and dev agreement, that we're all going to have to sign off on to make it happen.
So basically, just information right now, that you expect any action from us?
No, not unless, well, I would ask that you guys kind of give us a yea or a nay if you think you're going to be inclined with it. That way Wendell can sign, give Wendell the authority to sign the letter, and then we'll come back in December with the real agreement.
I would suggest maybe, if we're not sure to make the move right now, give you as a president the right to decide. If everyone's not ready to do it right now.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the parish president and our general manager, that I be given the authority to sign this document and decide which way we go at that time. I need a motion and a second to that effect. Moved by Mac, second by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Archie, good
Thank you.
job, Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Ron.
Need some forward thinking like that, don't let it slip away from us. Okay, audience comments, anybody from here for the purpose of addressing the board? We're going to the general manager's report. Wendell?
Look at a few pictures. Again, it's a very good day today. First time in months that the Hurricane Center is not telling us that the storm in the Gulf is gonna kill someone. So it's a good day today. Good day today. Cool. All right. Okay. I get 3 times. Okay, it's been 35 years since we flooded for Juan, and I was thinking about that. We got people that are 35 years old and they never experienced subsystem flooding, or flooding inside of the Los Golden Met area. And then there are people 40 years old, might have been around, but they don't really remember it. So, we want to make sure everybody understands it. But the bottom picture is along the coastal, that's Burial Shipyard. You're basically looking at Delta Farms Road over here. This is, look, you can see the bridge. That's the park. And then this is Tarpon Subdivision. And it was a good name at that time because there probably were tarpon in there. But the thing is, we flooded very badly in 1985. And the only reason we hadn't flooded 5 or 6 more times, and that's because the levee system got built. And we've got to keep on reminding people that it takes active work to maintain that we don't flood like this. And in October floods, they were talking about October hurricanes that people felt after October 1st, the season went down. Well, again, you had one October 27th, okay? Then at the same time, we had, that was in 85. Then we had Hilda in 1964. That was about October 3rd. And we had that tornado that killed over 23 people in the roads. I was at a hurricane conference, and there was a guy from Oklahoma who was a tornado expert. And he said that was the greatest loss of life from a tornado spawned by a hurricane. So, and then of course, the October 1st, 1893 storm that caused our communities to be up here rather than be between Grand Isle and Fouchon. And so October has always been it's been a serious month. Of course, August 15th starts the really big storms, and it continues, not October 1st, but through the month of October. And I just want to make that point to the people who have forgotten.
So, Wendell, how many times would we have seen this if our level went be up?
I think at least 5 times we had water that matched the elevation we had for one.
All you have to look is at Lord's Airborne and find out how many times they flooded
Yep.
prior to having this, the system they have now.
So it makes since 1985, how many times has,
I would say more than 5.
yeah.
Gustav, Rita, Ike, and probably twice this year, just off the top of my head. Maybe 3 times this year you'd have seen that kind of flood. Because we had 6 feet 3 times, 8 feet for Barry, so that's, you might be looking at 10 times.
Well,
that
sure.
you could have.
Forgot about this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to forget about this here.
Yeah, well, exactly. But again, it's important to understand that we've been hit hard through the years, and October is an active month. And we don't want to ever forget the Shanghai storm, but we need not to forget the Hilda in 80, I think it was October 3rd or 4th in 64. That we got that. So on to the, let's see. Hey, it's working. Now, a lot of people, we were talking about the press. They always go down to the floodgate and the lock and LA1. They're looking down LA1 and seeing it flooded. I see it on national news now. It's an iconic shot. Now everybody knows about the flooding of LA1 between the lock and Golden Meadow. Again, talking about our levee system. A lot of people don't realize that the road in Leeville is higher than the LA1 in Golden Meadow. You know, they don't think about how much we've got to handle water. But this is Delta Farms Road in LaRose, okay? That's the intercoastal over there, and I guess that's the intercoastal over here. And, it goes under, you can see how the level, we had closed the gate, but we could barely open it, not have water come in, so we try to keep it open. There is a family that lives back there, and when we can, we keep it open. But this has occurred a number of times. Again, the press doesn't come take a look at it, but we know it, and the people who live down there know it. And the people from, who live on Delta Farms Road, from the turn at the church, man, they can look on the other side and they understand that that water would be in their house if we didn't have a levee system. Those people really understand. Yeah. One thing, someone told me at night, people are going out there with lights and catch them 90 to 100 shrimp off of the road, right on top of Delta Farms Road. They have lights that they can pick up shrimp. It's amazing things we can get these storms. And then for that lady, and it helps our guys a little bit, we built the steps so we wouldn't have to go as often to open the gate when it needed to be open. But it's kept us busy. And again, what storm we had? We had Cristobal, Marco, Laura, Sally, Beta, Delta. So we've been kind of real busy, and every time these storms come around, we have to deal with the people over here. And they've got a lot of issues, and it causes them a lot of trouble, but the system works for the people inside. Again, this was Beta. This is at Basil. And you can see the water here is our levee that we've just raised up to most of it to 18 feet. And we just raised the ramp itself to 18 feet. And again, that's usually the dry parking lot. And this has occurred how many times? Like three times this year, this hurricane season. This is at Golden Meadow. Again, this is just an occurrence that just keeps on happening. Hard to see right now, but Daniel and the parish put some rocks over here, which is very good to help keep this strip of land in place. You know, every time we pump, it causes circulation, and it's been kind of eroding a little bit. And it's important to keep that kind of hole together because it's environmentally and for our commercial fishermen, sports people, it's worked out to be just a real nice setup having that basic pond. There you go. And the rocks that we'll put in to help maintain that strip of land so that our fishermen can use it, both the commercial and sports people. Just another shot of the area. And I think it's showing about 2.5, if I remember right. And again, another place is Apache Dock. You know, this water here if it would be for the levee right here, it would be over the road in LA1 and then the 4-lane highway. Instead of having foot measures or stop gauge, it's the number of steps on here that we can tell what takes place. And again, this is a common occurrence, happened at least 3 times this year with this area flooded. Here's Beta. This is inside of our lock, Golden Meadow, south of Golden Meadow. We have outdoors that we're going to get refurbished in the next, taken out actually come this November. They leak a lot more than the youth doors we put in, so this containment area kind of water gets a little bit high, so we've got a couple of holes over here to kind of drain it out a little bit. I'd rather water come through the steel than kind of go over our little earthen levee. And again, the iconic picture of LA1 slowly watching the water start to come over. This starts to happen, Drake at about 2.5, starts getting to the fall line.
2.45, 2.50, it starts coming across the road.
Yep, and then it turns into this. And again, that's the iconic, watching television on Saturday afternoon, and there's the picture from the lock looking south. 22 miles to get to Lafourche through here, and it's all on the water. And LA1 is higher right here than it is in the middle of Golden Meadow. LA1 is 0.3 feet above sea level. This is over 2.3 right here. We are constantly maintaining the floodgate in the rules and the lock in Golden Meadow to keep the LA1 dry. Again, just shots of the area looking out. It's amazing. You look here and everything looks normal, and then you look to the other side, it's a different world. Very fortunate this hurricane season, we had this gate. Before we put HESCO baskets across here, so we'd have to shut the road down maybe a day early, get the HESCO baskets up. Takes time to put them in place. And, you know, now with the gate, we can wait till the last minute to let people get through before we have to close the gate. The other thing is when we open up, we just have to open up. In past days, we have to get equipment, get the HESCO baskets out of the way, and get people out real quick. So this gives us it. And then protecting our people, instead of having sand and felt and some wire to protect them, we've got a steel wall to protect them, steel gate. So that is a tremendous improvement to our protection. And look, somebody said reading all the cores are there that they heard they had 10 dozen of donuts. Yeah. But no, we got law enforcement is such a tremendous help for us in South Lafourche and the Levee district. And the Port Commission helps us so much when we get problems or getting boats through the lock or issues. Got tremendous support from all of our police forces. Again, you can see that wasn't at the highest side. This is the almost the debris line after that dropped a little bit. Again, this is a 16-foot elevation of protection here. And again, LA1 under. And this is about 3.3, this elevation. That's what it was tied to. And this is work that we're doing. One of the low areas is section D. We have the levee up to about 17 feet on one end, and it was dropped to 15. And this is the work that's being done by Frank's project. And we went in and raised the ramp that goes to the boat launch on the other side. Because we raised it to about 18-foot elevation because we are getting a project to come in on the side raising the pump station wall over there, the crawfish pond. But this other work over here was done by Frank, and this is the work over here. And this has been raised already to 16 feet. Now, there's some work on the protected side that has to be done, and that's the work you're looking at right here. But this is right at 16, so we've raised that 3 to 4 foot differential that was there. Here's where the level used to be, and it will drop off from about 3 to 4 feet, and now that's filled in. Now we still have to bring in the material to increase the strength. Again, that was the level I'm on the outside looking in, and that's 3 foot more protection that's out there. And that's a shot of the ramp. Again, these sheet piles are going to be raised another 3 or 4 feet to match up with the work we're doing on the ramp. Again, there's the ramp again. And here's the work at, this is the Clovelly Farm. Clovelly people gave us the right to dig their canal out, and their canal is a tiny little canal. GIS is in there doing the work. And here's the form on this side, it's the little form levee. And they're digging here, we're taking the dirt and moving it. Well, okay, here's another shot. Here's the form on the inside over here, the form levee. And we're looking south right here. And here's the contractor putting the dirt here. He hasn't gotten it on top yet, but we'll be raising this about another couple of feet, but also strengthening. Again, the elevation inside the form at 12 is somewhere around -8 to -9, so there's a big differential from one side to the other. But that levee was slightly topped for, I think it was Rita. And the levees, these are uncompacted levees, and they had no problem. Took a little over topping with no problem at all. This is the area south of Clovelly. Contractor's still working on it. He's bringing it up. I think it's a 14.5 elevation. This is an area where it dropped down a little bit below the flood insurance level. So we've got now just about 95% of the levees above what the flood insurance is. And this is a little mitigation for the work we're doing with Terrebonne and North Lafourche. And this area is helpful to the levee. This is turning into open water. I'm on our levee right here taking a picture. And you can see the grass is just starting to grow. And this is going to be a really great looking marsh once the grass takes over, probably another growing season. This was outside the containment. And this is extra, you know, they're supposed to be 33 acres, but this is gonna add probably another 10 acres here. And this marsh is gonna turn really, really pretty. And that's a mitigation project. Here's a picture of our system. One of the things we're looking at, we had and I was talking to Monty about this. There was a shrimp, but throughout all the storms, the lock continued to operate. We didn't stop anybody from going in or out. After one of the storms, we had a big rainfall, and we did slow down the traffic through the lock. So I went back and started, is John here?
No, he's on
Oh, John's online. But I had him look at.
I am online.
All right. Well, this is the balloon, this is surface water that is interchanged. When you open the floodgates, this water is affected. Of course, when it rains, this water is inside the system and gets higher. So that's about 1.9 square miles. Our lock is about 450 feet long, about 200 feet wide. And instead of putting a pump station in the lock to get the water out when we're operating the lock, we put it over here by the siphon. And talking to John, we figured that if we opened every hour and we had a 2-foot displacement of water from the outside to the inside, that pump we put, half of that pump could handle all of that water. Okay? So, but we're running the pump all the time, so we're actually taking even more water out than if we had it here. So we're gonna be a little more aggressive in allowing passage at the lock because there's so little water compared to what we're pulling out, that things are gonna have to be really bad for us not to operate the lock. Now, it's a different situation over here with the roads. The floodgate, when we open it and there's a foot differential, that water comes pouring out as long as that gate's open. It doesn't limit the amount of water coming in. So we're still gonna be running a tight operation here, but we think we can be a little more aggressive in allowing traffic here. Although, again, through the storms, we did not stop working the operation. John, you have anything you want to add?
Not right now, Wendell.
All right. And the other thing, once we get our project, isolate this water as a retention pond, then we've knocked off half of those surface water we got to handle, which it's going to really give us a lot more control in taking care of that water so we can increase the economic flow for our fishermen and our commercial people who work provider. And I just wanted to show the big picture. When you have these hurricanes, here we are right here. Here's Port Fuchsia. And most storms come from the southeast going northwest. And what's interesting, because of the counterclockwise rotation, the angle of our levee system, and because you have this big ridge of almost 4 sets of levees on the Mississippi River, and we have the Caminati headland with Grand Isle and the other islands that go all the way to the Mississippi River Bridge. We have a good bit of reduction of that storm water gets reduced because of that ridge on the Mississippi River and the little shantyards we have in here with some marsh on this side. And counterclockwise, so we're never open to the open Gulf. And that really knocks down that storm surge, maybe 13 feet for breakweight for Isaac. We had maybe 6 feet over here. It's a big, big asset. Now, when you have a storm coming from here, from the west, which we had with Delta gonna happen, here we are over here, big, big opening in Terrebonne Bay. I mean, you have the Berry Islands, but they're not as robust as the ones on the east side. And you have a lot of open water between them, and our marsh against the levee on the west side is deteriorating very quickly. So it's a big risk. That's why we've put a little more attention on the west side, and we have more 18-foot elevation of levee on the west side than we do on the east side. When you look at it flat, again, you know, this is a reasonable line of Berry you have all the way through, where the Berry Islands here are kind of more separated, and we have more marsh and a few ridges here that help out. We have very little on this side. So again, that's why we've gone and put a little bit higher elevation on the levees on this side. But we're going to try to get more on this side also, but this seems to be the biggest risk. But we really got to be thankful that we have the Mississippi Ridge protecting us from that side, and that hurricane circulating this direction. It really blocks off a lot of that water. And then during emergency at Grand Bayou, this is the location that the permanent structure is gonna be built on Grand Bayou. And again, we have cutoff and Apache Form here, and there's marsh. Here's Grand Bayou, and there's our mitigation levee that has been increased with the work that's been done with the 3 levee districts working together. But this is the blockage of Grand Bayou in case that 7 to 11 feet of water would show up on this side. And they did it, they sealed it real well, and this project, had the water come, would have been able to stop, how much, Mitch, what's the elevation it could handle?
+8 is what they aim for.
Plus 8, but the other part of that is that this is the most efficient flow of a heck of a lot of water going through. So just blocking from the water line down would have stopped a heck of a lot of water. And that's the biggest hole, the quickest way some floodwaters could get into the North Lafourche and Terrebonne
And
area.
environmentally, it certainly had a benefit. I mean, I saw shrimp boat pushing in Houma in the intercoastal Saturday.
And it's because of this stuff. Because
of
it's
this-
barge.
Because of, no, what I'm saying is the storms from the west brought in so much salt water or shrimp jumping in the intercoastal
Oh, I got
Houma,
you.
which is extremely fresh. I mean, direct connection to the Atchafalaya River.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any little thing you do, you know, is a benefit, you know.
And that's all I have, and then we'll go through the agenda. Okay, Store Retreat has requested their contribution of $500.
Tradition that we're giving you for the last 10, 15 years, giving $1,000 contribution to Restore and Retreat. They asked us for the same amount this year. Your wish, gentlemen. Moved by Mike, seconded by Roland. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Again, the floodgate and lock operations, I kind of mentioned it, that we're gonna be looking at maybe being a little more aggressive in operating the lock, unless Golden Meadow's in dire situation. But we think we can do a little bit more use of the lock. The Ontario lock operations during maintenance work, again, now it's gonna stop being a lock. Okay, we're waiting for the best time, which is now. The funds are coming through. We're hoping we get a heck of a lot more funds for the next 3 months. But we're taking out the gates, the old gates are there. We gotta take them, we gotta rework, we gotta re-put the skin on it. It's kind of rusted, it's been there since 1985. And so we're just gonna have 6 foot of protection, and it's gonna work as a floodgate and not a lock. So we may have to go to the type of schedule we have in the roads. Well, we open maybe 5 times a day, if we don't get enough fronts. But as I mentioned, 0.3 foot elevation, water starts getting on the road in Golden Meadow. Okay, normal time is at least a 0.5 most of the time. Now, unless we get a good bunch of strong fronts that stay there, because with the fronts, the water will drop a half a foot sometimes on the side, maybe more. But we're gonna have to it's gonna be a problem for some people, I would think. But we have no choice, we have to do it. So we're gonna turn that lock is gonna turn to a floodgate from about November through at least the end of February. Right, Joe?
Yes. The asphalt that they're putting in Golden Meadow, which I don't know when they're gonna start, but that'll help us
Oh,
by eliminating the canal.
as I've talked to you and the mayor, and I was talking to the highway department, and they need to start using roads as flood protection devices at the same time. You go to Golden Meadow, typically you build your road turtleback, so you don't want the water, but we got the wall over here, the turtleback, so water gets caught in between the two. If they can just, instead of going down after the center line, slightly go up, so they're all water drains here. But just by going up like that, it's gonna raise the level of protection from a 0.3 to maybe a 0.6 or more if they have a little bit more money. I mean, we've gotta kind of think a little bit different. Throughout South Louisiana, I was talking to the highway department, it's not just us. You know, we have culverts that drain into the bayou, and that doesn't work anymore. So we have to relook at how we deal with highways along our bayou banks. And you help use them as best to protect ourselves. We need, in South Lafourche, we gotta get all of our drainage. Instead of some of it going to the bayou, we gotta get all of it going to the back. And that's a big project. I mean, it's gonna take some larger canals that people are not used to doing. So I'm sure the parish president is gonna make sure that we get more efficient and have that drainage go to the back.
Well, he was here.
work his ears up a little. But, anyway, that is gonna be a difference, and we need to warn everybody and ask that everybody have a little bit of, understanding. Look, the benefits of having that lot has made life easy for everybody. And, so for us to sacrifice 3 months of not having that advantage, it's a little sacrifice of something that works for us for the next 10 years. Capital outlay request, I would ask that we approve asking for $7.5 million to help us as a receiving chamber for the floodgate and lock that we're trying to build in the rules. And also have a couple of other projects that we would list on there for that 7, just in case we would get other funding. So, I need a motion, to request 7.5 in capital outlay.
How much?
7.5 million.
7.5 million from capital outlay. Okay, gentlemen, you've heard the request of our town manager to request 7.5 million from capital outlay so we can continue our drainage efforts and build the locks, convert the locks into the dam into a lock in our roads. Bill wishes, gentlemen. Moved by Keith, second by Roden. Hero. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Anything else on that? Any questions or windows? Okay, we'll move on to engineering reports. CPRA, Daniel, you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I don't have anything specific for the board. Just glad that we've avoided another potential big hit here, and we've been lucky so far in this area. Not too much in the west, but yeah, I don't really have anything specifically for the board. Thanks.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Daniel? Thank you, Daniel, for your report. Corps of Engineers, Bill wants to hear project engineers, Facilities Services, Bill.
Yes, on Levee section east-south, lowland construction is a contractor. He's continually moving material. Weather permitting, he should be finished within the next month or so. We do have a pay application number 10 in the amount of $19,000 even, and we do recommend that you approve that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations of our engineers to grant a pay request number 10 to lowland construction, I believe.
Yes.
Amount of $19,000. How about the change order, adding 24-hour?
We also, on these 4 jobs, we're gonna ask for 24 days of change order with no monetary or extra money, for the storm. Now, that doesn't include this latest storm, Delta, but we're trying to get up to date on schedule and how many days we grant them for the previous storms.
Okay, so you're requesting, let's take that first.
Okay.
Change order. You're requesting change order number, to add 24 days to all of Mexico contracts, all 4 of them going on presently, to add 24 additional days.
Yes, sir.
Waiting conditions. Okay, gentlemen, you heard the request, moved by Roman, second by Roman. And all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, motion carries. Okay, your request number 10, and the amount of $19,000. Gentlemen, your request. Your moved by Bob, second by Mac. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, motion carries.
On the Enarc Borrow project, Grand Shipyard's the contractor. They're moving material. They actually are falling a little bit behind schedule, so they're agreed to bring more equipment and work more on the job to try to get caught up. They do have the same change order, and we also have pay application number 5 in the amount of $11,538.67 that we approved.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the engineers, and we take request number 5 to Grand Now Shipyard, an amount of $11,538.67. Your wish, gentlemen. Moved by Keith, second by Mac. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And on the South Levee improvements, SBL is the contractor on this project. He's also been excavating and hauling material. We did have a meeting with him. His contract time was up. And we asked him to make significant progress, and we're gonna check back with him in another month. We also are recommending you approve the change order for 24 days, and we have pay application number 7 in the amount of $9,245.23, and we recommend you pay that.
Okay, your recommendation of engineers to pay SBL, pay request number 7 in the amount of $9,245.23. No wishes, gentlemen. Move by roll, second by roll. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And also D-South, this is grading shaping portion of this project. SBL is also the contractor. We did approve the change order for that one also, and he has pay application number 5 in the amount of $1,800 even, and we do recommend you pay that.
Okay, good recommendation of engineers to pay SBL. Payment request number 5 in the amount of $1,800. No wishes. Moved by Lack, second by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And on section F, levee improvements, we've completed the project plans. This is crown and berm improvements. We submitted it to state CPRA and also state facility planning for approval. Once we get their approval, then we can go out for bids. And the Go-to-Meadow Pump Station flood wall, we accepted bids in August. Sea Level was the low bidder. We have contract documents complete. We had a pre-construction meeting with him last week. We gave him a conditional notice to proceed for today. So he's gonna start buying material and start fabricating parts of the wall at his shop. We expect that within the next month that he'll probably start moving on site.
And how long do you figure for the whole project?
It's a 6-month project, 8-month project. We should be done sometime in July, is what we're expecting. So we're just starting off on that project. On the maintenance of the sector gates at the Lee, Ontario lock, we are currently advertising for bids. We're gonna accept bids next week, October the 20th at 2 p.m. Like Wendell said, we're gonna give them 90 days on the contract. So assuming that we can approve the bids at next month's meeting, we'll get started sometime late November, early December, and we'll be for 3 months we'll be out.
Okay, will you bring us up to date on the meeting with Red Sheriff meeting?
Yes. Drake and I went out and ride with Mr. Ray, actually right during a storm. So I don't remember which one it was. It was Beta or something. But the fuel crew has been working diligently to keep the level of the water in the Borough Canal down. Especially when the storms are coming, they can get it down to like a -7.5. And at a -7.5, the outfall canal on Mr. Ray's property is capable of draining his property. And from what we saw, most of his property was dry. I mean, at the time we were looking at it, the canal was down to -7.5. He still had 1 or 2 spots that was low and that might have been holding a little bit of water, not much. But I think his concern is that because of the siphons working, because of the airport pumps working, because we have the culverts, that we could inundate his pasture and I guess kill his grass and affect his cattle. But I mean, I think that for the time being, while we have the culverts in place, if the fuel crew can keep up with it like they have been doing, I don't really see a problem, okay? I mean, I don't know if Drake can chime in, but they've been able to keep up with it and keep the water in the Borough Canal low. And I mean, I do believe that that's the solution to try to help them out. If the Borough Canal is that low, then he shouldn't really have any water on his property.
If I understand you correctly, Ray was not with you when you went on this field?
Oh, he did, he was with us.
He was with you?
Yes, sir.
He's aware of the situation?
Yes, he is.
Okay, that's,
So it's Drake and I and Mr. Ray.
okay, because I haven't heard his name. Okay, anybody have any questions on this matter, Mr. Joe? Any other questions? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
We can move on to GIS. Laura?
Thank you. First project update that I have is for the 8 East Bayou Water Retention. We're still waiting on Corps permits for that project. We completed the initial topo survey. We've identified some additional surveying needs, so we're currently scheduling that effort. We're continuing discussions with Loop as well as the many other pipeline companies that are out in that area to make sure that we satisfy their requirements for anywhere that we're going to cross their pipelines. And so we're continuing to do plans and specs so that once we get the permit issue resolved, that we're ready to bid on that one. On D-South flood wall improvements, we're coordinating with CPRA, so we submitted our phase 1 design to them, which is to replace and elevate the braced wall portion of the D-South flood wall. They came back with comments. We're kind of working with them to get all that ironed out so that we can be ready to go to bids on that one. We've got the plans done for the second phase, which is to replace the T-wall. We're just holding on until we resolve the phase 1 issues with CPRA, and then that'll be ready to submit.
Yeah, and that's important. This is the lowest spot we have that far south. We get this taken care of. We have almost everything up to 16, 17. That's the whole wind system.
Golden Meadow boat launch ramp, the construction contract was awarded to Lowland Construction in the amount of $99,976. We issued the notice to proceed to them on September 30th. I believe this is a 45-day contract, and they were supposed to start moving dirt today. On the D-North ramp, we are coordinating with Loop on the relocation of their fiber optic line and gave them our ramp improvement plans so that they can go to the Corps and apply for that permit. Wendell's assisting with helping identify and coordinate with the landowner on a bar pit. And we have submitted our plans and specs to CPRA. We got a couple comments back from them, but one being that they are requesting a geotech analysis. So we're currently coordinating that effort with Houston to get that done as soon as we can. And then last project, we'll start with the Grand Bayou permanent structure. So on the flood wall and receiving structure, sea level has completed the dredging at the site for the receiving structure. They completed the wick drain installation on the west side, and they were probably 90% complete on the east side prior to Hurricane Delta coming. On the barge gate, we are continuing to review submittals and RFIs. Had a preparatory meeting with Conrad on September 23rd. They're going to be fabricating the gate, and they should begin that as soon as this week on the fabrication. So I do have on the agenda pay request number 2 for sea level in the amount of $747,358.97.
Would you repeat that amount?
Sure. $747,358.97.
And that's the sea level.
And as for sea level, the majority of that pay app is for stored materials. It's jacket material and the 84-inch piles for the jacket.
You made the recommendation engineers to pay number 2 to sea level, $747,358.97. Joe, moved by Roden, seconded by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Anything else, Laura?
All right, so if I could just talk briefly on the emergency structure that we put in at Grand Bayou. That effort, we kind of got the go-ahead last minute on last Monday, and many of the agencies represented in this room and on the phone, went into action to get things moving. This was a smooth. I'm sure internally there were, some frustrations and things like that, but this was a very smooth process. But it was, south of Lafourche, Lafourche Parish, North Lafourche, Terrebonne Levee, Terrebonne Parish, CPRA, Governor's Office, and sea level was already out there, so they were able to, use some of the equipment that they had on site, and then get everything moving. But this was all done with local contractors, and we started, I guess, early morning on Tuesday, and it was finished early Friday. So just a quick video going.
Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards has declared a state of emergency as Hurricane Delta continues to barrel toward the United States Gulf Coast.
7 to 11 feet of storm surge west of Port Fourchon, so for Terrebonne Parish, this would include you for the highest storm surge.
This storm is the record breaker for going from a tropical depression to a Category 4.
We're talking through that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, we're thinking 2 to 4 weeks.
I mean,
But
you still
still
got
in
some more
discussion.
time.
Still in discussion, yeah.
Yeah, so it's still more hurricane season.
Mhm.
That was the most, with that music in the background, the most dramatic plug-in.
But maybe if you would move it, you can
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my
can
seat.
you store some of that stuff in case they're in the
Well, hopefully we'll be done for next hurricane season.
Right.
Use a permanent facility.
Right.
We're talking about digging around the edges of it so that boats can pass and we could just fill it in with dirt or something.
Yeah,
And leaving it.
and the plant, that's the only place, the only real commercial,
Okay.
group, they contacted them and said, look, they don't see any problem or any need to navigate a barge or something through, and they said no. They said if it's gonna be longer than a few weeks, just stay in touch with them. So everybody's cooperating real well with the project.
Massive.
Any questions of Laura? Thank you, Laura. Angela Fishiova.
All right, on the V North and V South end improvement, this is from the baseball pump station down at the Golden Meadow Park. My contract with Train Partners is continuing with construction. We've added some additional work over the last year to this project. And in return, we've asked them to take his time on getting out at the end of this hurricane season, not to cut the top of the levee until after hurricane season. So he's been focusing on some other projects. We expect over this next month he'll be wrapping up. On the Seaside levee improvement, this is north of Basin. They contracted the Grand Isle Shipyard, and we're recommending approval of their pay request number 5 in the amount of $152,760.22.
Okay, you heard the recommendation of our engineer to take Grand Isle Shipyard and Incorporated, pay request number 5 in the amount of $152,760.22. Moved by Law, second by Paul. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Okay, our last project is Morganza to the Gulf Retail. This is from the the west side of Apache Farm all the way to Grand Bayou, including some features and an alternate bid for Bayou LaRue. Last month, we identified some potential borrow sites on Apache Farm and incorporated that into the project plans. At this time, the project plans are being reviewed by the Levee District. After that, we're working with Mitch to get it submitted to CPRA for review. So we hope to be coming back to the board next month for a recommendation to advertise this project.
Okay, any questions, Neil? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Delta Coast, Mitch?
Just real quick, want to thank all of you for working with us as we, you know, I talk to Wendell a lot, and he's always saying, man, we got 7-8 foot of freeboard, 10 foot of freeboard, you know, and we're over there with our fingers in the dikes trying to keep water out. So thank you for all the help and assistance y'all give us in trying to implement some of these things. And this morning, I met with some of our guys coordinating for FEMA. So we know we're going to have some things to do here. I think it's premature to really discuss details, but just wanted to assure you that we're going to work to make sure that that's as smooth and timely as we possibly can. Also want to say, in terms of other change orders that we have on the agenda today, and as we talk about Laura, we need to forget Marco. Laura is the FEMA event, and so you know, our invoicing from contractors and engineers should reflect Laura and not Marco. But that's all I have right now.
And there's good cooperation, the work that Terrebonne is doing with Mary's keeping, and everybody's working together to keep all these things. It's very difficult, a lot of moving parts.
Sure.
And so, the work that Mary is doing to keep it straight, and all y'all guys give it the right.
And we just added some more moving parts here. We do hope that CPRA is going to be involved somewhat in this process. So we'll see. It's just a little early to tell. So we'll be open and forward with you, Wendell. And if we have any questions, let's just get together.
Okay, any questions for Mitch? Thank you, Mitch. Okay, all south, Brandon?
Yeah, the first project I'll report on is the Reach K marsh mitigation. The construction of this project has been finished for a couple months now. In the recent past, we've developed a monitoring report that was required, and we have a draft of that to be submitted shortly for review. In addition to that, the contractor remains in the clear lien period. Moving on to the Reach K levee, I have this broken into a few different phases. The first one being the reshaping, we call it phase 1, which is being performed by Lowland Construction. This is on the southern end closest to Pointe-a-Chance, about an 8,700 foot section. To date, they depleted the stockpile on the north and the south end of the project and shaped 7,700 feet. There's about 1,000 feet left in the middle, which just has some temporary measures to get it up to elevation, but not quite structurally sound on that. The contractor still has to make another pass throughout the project, and as he clips his final pass, it should generate a little bit of material for that project. Reach K reshaping phase 2. Sea Level has this job, and that's a operator and equipment contract we have on that. And last Monday they did mobilize the 4 dozers and the excavator. They worked a half a day, and then they got that stuff out of there once Tuesday morning came, and they knew that the board was going to be in place and they wouldn't have a way to get the equipment out of there. But nonetheless, they're remobilizing today, and they'll be on site and they'll be working this week, starting with shaping. Moving towards phase 3, some additional material. FEMA has authorized funds for the replacement of 55,000 cubic yards that was lost during Barry. And we prepared a bid package and submitted to CPRA for concurrence before we go out to bid. So we were waiting on a response from them, and we just got that comment today. They had no further comments, so later this week we should hit the paper. We'll start advertising for the 55,000 yards to be delivered. Other than that, we have amendment to our contract for your consideration. We've had a resident inspect on site since April of this year and depleted the budget amount allocated in our contract for this task, and we're asking for some more funds to take us through this shaping effort that Sea Level is performing, and also for the 55,000 yards being delivered. We're thinking to go through about March of next year, this amount will be sufficient. So according to the contract terms, this is for time that we're on the site, so if something were to happen, and we only bill you for whatever time that we're there. And the contract amount was for 84,000, and we're looking to bump that up another 138,750 for inspection, total amount of $222,750.
Okay, that is to be paid to All South Construction, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, it seemed to me, we were told that there would be a reduction on another project to compensate, if I remember this correctly, or no?
I very remember.
So we use some additional services funding in an area for the design contract for some of this FEMA work, if that's what you're referring to. But this is actually going to be another contract to place the yardage. I don't know, I would recommend approval of this pending Wendell and my coordination with
I mean, this is not coming out of our pockets. I'm
No,
just asking-
how the reimbursement is
We'll be
gonna
able to,
flow.
we'll have to answer for it.
That's correct. That's correct. So I think Wendell and I need to have a discussion on how the funding will flow. So if we could approve it pending on that discussion. But obviously, it's.
Let's vote for it, we'll find out what's in the.
Well, so CPRA has.
And what vote for it, agree, if we agree that.
That's right. So
I'm just teasing.
Wendell's not gonna agree to anything that would have a dollar come out of your pocket. So it'll either be from a CPRA pool of money or the Terrebonne Levee District pool of
I
money.
understand that. My only question is, if there's any problem there, we're sort of like the accountant on the job. We're
Right.
the ones gonna have to answer from this management to the accountant. I just want to be sure
Sure,
that this is,
sure. So I will.
seemed to me that Stevie said something about, and I specifically asked him, this is gonna be reduced somewhere else, and is that the same thing we're talking about? Or is this something else?
And this is reimbursable through FEMA. So this $138,000 is part of the emergency Barry money that we can get repaid by FEMA. However, you have to upfront that. Okay, so there's a little risk. You know, we'll work out, but in other words, we won't execute the amendment until Wendell and I have agreed on a path forward.
And that's what I thought about the moving parts. There are so many moving parts because of the emergency money compared to the normal operation. We gotta go back and look at everything.
That's right.
Okay, so you're requesting that we increase All South's contract, amendment number 2, phase 2, by $138,750 for inspection services of 55 KCY. That's the question?
Yes,
The
sir.
request. Gentlemen, if you understand it, move by Max, second by Bob. All in any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you. In addition, I have a change order for Little Land's work in conjunction with Hurricane Laura. And this is for the emergency efforts to get the project site up to the maximum protection that we could in a short period of time. They had multiple pieces of equipment on site, and they submitted a detailed breakdown of that equipment and the days that it operated. And we're asking for a change order in the amount of $41,245.
Okay, we're asking for change order number 3, but it's not funded right now, but just to change the order by that amount, increase the amount available by that amount?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
It's not a request for payment, it's just
No,
increase
it's
the
not a
amount.
request for payment, no, it's just a change.
Sometimes I'm more
We'll come back next meeting. We'll come back next meeting with that.
You come back for it.
You know where we live.
Okay. Next,
So we gotta approve that?
make your request now. Yeah, we got to
Yeah,
approve.
change order.
Okay, we did make the motion, and then we vote for it now. We We did make the motion.
No, we didn't.
Okay, well, then you made the motion, and Bob's gonna second.
Okay, I make the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. No,
Yes, sir.
no, we have another pay request. Is that
No, that was
anything
the
else?
last one. That was it. We gave the first one. That's it.
Okay, I'll understand it soon. though, later. Okay, any questions about that, Brandon? Thank you, Tag. And I don't mean to get on your case, but I want to make sure I got it straight in my mind. Okay, legal permission and rights of way. Mitch is not here, but we have one.
Yeah, there's one, Louis Sherby, has to do with, concrete disposal at Couchon, doesn't affect the levee system.
Okay. Chairman, the general manager requests approval of this, permit number two, whatever it is. Okay, any discussion? I mean, they need a motion. Vote on Mitch, second on that. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, let's sit attorney. Okay, finance committee.
The chairman not here, but I'll report. Finance committee met, reviewed all invoices and recommend to pay all invoices as presented.
Okay, motion by the chairman, the co-chairman of the committee, to pay all invoices as presented. Your wishes, gentlemen. Move on that. Second by Roland. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, insurance committee. Roland.
The insurance committee met and approved that we had an increase in our monthly payment for, this is for health benefits for our 19 employees, a monthly of $696.90, and for a yearly total of $8,362.80. And we have some new people and their families group, so that's part of the problem why we have to pay more. But we have great employees and they really deserve it. So anyway, I move that we pay, do this
Moved by
increase.
Roland that we do pay this increased amount and renew this particular policy. Second by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, any old business?
Well, I mentioned this a little bit. I mean, sitting here with Neil, I talked about the 1964 Hurricane Hill, the tornado. And Neil's family was directly in it. His dad was injured very badly. The story was it Life or Look magazine?
The Life magazine.
Life magazine.
Grandfather Roy was on the picture.
Right, it was on the cover. Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, the magazine,
No,
being that you're here, I thought you might mention
Yeah,
something about it.
the family survived. My dad and his three siblings, his mom and dad, and my grandparents. Before me, I was in 64, 65.
64.
So I was born in 72. But the whole family was just devastated. The house disappeared. They all got knocked out. My grandpa thought my dad was dead. He just brought him home for a ride to a makeshift hospital and raised him at a ag center.
Yeah, I remember reading about the families piled up and everybody's bleeding so much, it was hard to tell
Yeah.
who was hurt, who
They loaded
wasn't.
them in a dump truck.
They put him on the back of one of their flatbed trucks and hauled up to Raceland.
I was at
My
the,
best friend, Steve
hospital.
Angelet, was supposed to go at your grandfather's house. And then I heard a tornado, and I didn't find out until about 4 or 5 days later that Steve and his wife and his son had instead of going on to Baton Rouge. I thought they were involved with y'all, they were missing. That was some hard days.
Yeah, it was a very interesting story for me, I guess a very scary story for them to relive it.
Yeah, a little bit more, you wouldn't be around.
Yeah, and it just shows the dangers of, it's not always a direct hit of a hurricane. This was just a tornado event, thunderstorm.
Yeah,
ahead
but again,
of a hurricane.
He'll hit most around
What did they
Franklin, but this was the area that you tend to get the tornadoes on that
Was
side
it
of
10
the
or
storm.
12 people died in that
There
tornado?
was some other people in the-
23.
Yeah.
You know, and the houses were full, there weren't any houses, but again, there was a hurricane, so the people from Golden Valley down here, they packed those houses up there, with people getting rid of the storm and the tornado.
Awesome cement houses.
One of the stories that came out of that is this guy had gone, he was from Golden Meadows, and he had gone evacuations and their relatives in that area. and he heard some noise, and he opened the door to look. That's the last time you saw him. He sucked out the door, found the body later.
You know, I was at the hospital, my boat was tied up at the refinery, Matthews, down the bar, anyway. And I went to the hospital, my mama worked there, and they asked for some help, so I went over there. And as I walked in, one lady was over there on one of those rolling things there, and she called me, she said, "Roland, come see." Man, I didn't recognize her. Her face was so wind burned, I didn't know who she was. And then she told me who she was. She said, "Pull my nightgown down." She had both ties broken, bone sticking out. Then I had worked at the paper mill with a guy that worked for Faldu, a guy named Dave Faldu. So he come by and he says, you want to come to the funeral home? He says, and visit you after the storm had passed. So I go to the funeral home, and he opened the door. He says, "Look at this. They had 300-pound blocks of ice all over the place with bodies on top of them." I will never forget that scene either. That was terrible time. Brings it home.
Okay, any other old business? Any new business? I need a motion, guys. Second by Roland. Okay, signify by saying aye. Opposed, no.